Good evening. We'll call them. If we can ask them to, well, they'll be in here in 2 seconds, so don't worry about it. It's okay. If I could ask, we're convening, excuse me, let me get all back together here again. We're convening as the Wicomico County Council for June 4th, 2019, in legislative session 2019-11. Those who would like to join us for the Lord's Prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, please stand. Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Entertain a motion from council to approve the legislative minutes from May 21st, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes are approved. Entertain a motion to approve the closed work session minutes from March 19th in reference to consulting with legal counsel.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes are approved. Entertain a motion to approve the closed work session minutes from April 2nd in reference to consulting with legal counsel.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes are approved. Entertain a motion to approve the closed work session minutes from April 16th, 2019 in reference to the legal personnel matter.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes are approved. Entertain a motion to approve the closed work session minutes from May 7th, 2019 in reference to legal personnel matter.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes are approved. Entertain a motion to approve the open work session minutes from April 16th, 2019 in reference to the CIP.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes are approved. And entertain a motion to approve the open work session minutes from April 16th, 2019 in reference to the School Board District 3 interviews.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussions or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes are approved. At this time, we have a special proclamation. If we can get half the hall in here. This is the, yeah.
I didn't realize the team was that big. No wonder you won. Well, all right. I don't know where to start, but they do deserve big congratulations, don't they? I watched these kids grow, some of them, and quite a few of them, ever since my kids were so big. And they played soccer together, they played baseball together, played football together. I coached some of them, played against some of them through elementary school, through middle school, then they split up, and some went Parkside, some went to Bennett. So it's been quite a journey for you guys. You guys have played a lot of good baseball over the years, and you guys really deserve this. So I'm going to start off with this proclamation. 2019 James M. Bennett baseball team, Maryland 3A champions. Whereas the 2019 James M. Bennett baseball team, got to get my glasses on, started the season strong at 10-0 and regained momentum as the playoffs began. And whereas Bennett took on and defeated Chesapeake High School and Stephen Cater High School to advance to the regional final. And whereas the Clippers became the 3A East champions by defeating Appleton High School, and whereas the state semifinal game, the Clippers defeated defending 3A champion Thomas Johnson to advance to the championship round. And whereas on May 25th, the James M. Bennett Clippers won the Maryland 3A state baseball championship by defeating Milton Wright at Ripken Stadium and finishing their season 16-5. Therefore, it be resolved that the Wicomico County Council congratulates the 2019 James M. Bennett baseball team for winning the title for Maryland 3A state champion done this day, June 4th, 2019, is signed by all the council members. And on behalf of Wicomico County Council and the entire county, we thank you all and congratulate you all for a successful season.
And I just want to make a quick comment. My wife and I had the fortunate experience that we actually went to the game and went to Aberdeen and Ripken Stadium and got to witness you guys take that state championship. I know a lot of you have had Mrs. McCain as a teacher, and I know they're all saying, "Oh, geez," you know. But we wanted to support you all, and it was exciting to be there. I mean, first of all, it was a great game, and you did Wicomico County proud. I mean, these guys displayed great sportsmanship, and it's hard. It's these guys. I know you've all been playing baseball probably your whole lives, and you work towards something like this, and you think about all those practices and all those hours and all that time in the gym, and then to be able to culminate with a state championship, that's quite an honor. And also the fact that these guys did this by playing good fundamental baseball, smart baseball, and and I compliment their coaches. I was very impressed with the the decision making to get to a state championship. That's a challenge, as you all and I see them all, they're shaking their head because they know it's a challenge. So just a great great experience for all of you. You'll remember it for your lives, and we all want to congratulate you, and we're all very, very proud of you. So congratulations.
Well, I know some of you guys are seniors and you're going to move on to your next journey, and I wish you the best of luck. And to the remaining kids, I hope you still continue to play baseball and bring back a championship. If not, hopefully Parkside or White High will do that for their estate. So, who wants to come up there and get their picture? Does somebody want to say something, David?
No, sir.
Hey, maybe the last time you see some of these guys.
Yeah, that's the part I want to talk about. So 7 years ago, Jay Fangoletta asked me to help be a coach at James and Bennett, and the other guys came on shortly thereafter, and it's a wonderful coaching staff. These kids are truly ambassadors for Wicomico County. They've been a true wonder to coach this past season. Yeah, there are some seniors that are leaving, and it is a bit emotional. We return a lot of players again, and looking forward to a new season. And we certainly appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us, and just thanks. Appreciate it.
Let's put it back in the town.
Oh yeah, so what Coach is talking about was the escort we got back into Salisbury. It's very heartwarming to see that many people at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning come out and support a team as they come back. So it was just really awesome.
Congratulations, Coach. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when you play that much baseball, your hair color changes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Vice President Dodd. Thank you, Councilman McCain. At this time, we have a special presentation we'd like to make on behalf of the County Council and, of course, the 110,000 citizens of Wicomico County. Councilman Kilmer, if you could join us here, please, I'd appreciate that. If you all want to come up, you may. Marc is, as you know, well, as you may not know, this is Councilman Kilmer's last council today. It's going to be his last meeting.
Bob started the clapping early.
Yeah. But we're going to miss Marc a lot. I mean, Marc has been very useful, not only to his district, he's been an excellent representative for his district, he's been an excellent representative for the council members, and he's been an excellent representative for Wicomico County as a whole. Marc, I found in many instances where you had to make very important decisions. It's always important to be able to have someone who you can depend on, whose opinion you can trust, someone who is very balanced and very diplomatic in his nature, and we found that in all cases. Marc also has an excellent sense of humor, which makes things much easier when you're going through the whole process, trust me. So with that being said, we have a proclamation. And we framed this proclamation because this is special for us.
Yes, it is.
And it reads, "It is with great pleasure that members of the Wicomico County Council extend this certificate of appreciation to Marc Kilmer, District 2 Council Representative, for your leadership and dedicated service to the citizens of Wicomico County, Maryland, while ever striving to exercise professionalism, good judgment, and fairness. We thank you for your ability to anticipate the needs of your community and for the grace you extended to council staff and citizens. Done this 4th day of June 2019, signed by all the members of the Wicomico County Council." Marc? Weston, do you mind, Weston? That's what you get when you sit right next to the podium.
Can we throw the heckler out of the room?
I left my gavel over there. Marc, we also have a gift for you.
I thought it was maybe a budget book or something like that.
What Marc doesn't know is that Idaho's not that far from Wicomico County in this day of technology, right? So we will be contacting him quite often.
Well, thank you.
So this is a token of our appreciation. Which says, "Honoring Marc Kilmer, District 2 County Council Representative, 2014 to 2019, in recognition of your outstanding dedication, commitment, and support to Wicomico County, Maryland." So,
So maybe I'll say a few words now, and maybe later. My family showed up, surprised me. No one told me any of this was happening, so I appreciate that. Thank you. It was a surprise, and I thank my family for coming. It's been an honor serving the people of Wicomico County and District 2 especially. I appreciate the trust you've all put in me. I appreciate all the service that the fellow council members. It's been great serving with all of you, some for shorter periods than the other. I thought about going down a list and thanking a variety of people, but I know I'd leave some people out, and I would take too long because there are too many people to thank. And I get a little choked up, which I don't want to do. So I think that fellow council members, thank County Executive Culver. It's been a pleasure serving with everyone. We haven't always all agreed, but I think we've all had the best interests of Wicomico County at heart. And I think the staff, our staff especially, has been very useful. I don't always say thank you, so I appreciate them. And the executive staff has also been helpful, so I appreciate their help. And my family, of course, has been very supportive of me being gone at a variety of firefighter dinners and community functions. They get very well fed with all the food I bring home. So, some of the best food in Wicomico County you'll find in the firehouses and in the community halls. So, I've certainly put on a few pounds because of that. But, and I do think that people of District 2 especially, I think they're, I'm a little biased, but the best people in Wicomico County on the west side of the county, Mardella Springs and the Bivalve, Nanticoke, Tyascan area, and Allen and Fruitland and Sharptown and Hebron and all the areas that we have. So thank you everybody, and it's been an honor, and I will miss everybody when I go. So thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Good evening, Ms. Hurley.
Good evening, Mr. President, council members, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to bring to your attention that there was one change to tonight's agenda, and that is Resolution Number 92, 2019 was moved up to the beginning of the meeting agenda, so that way the capital improvement program would be considered before the fiscal year 20 budget. So looking at the agenda, the first item this evening is Resolution Number 92, 2019, approving the capital program for Wicomico County for fiscal years 2020 through 2024. The county executive submitted the capital program to council on December the 18th, 2018. Council then had a public hearing on the CIP on February the 5th, 2019. There were several revisions submitted by administration to the capital program since the original submission, so council decided to have a second public hearing, and that was held on May the 7th. The version for council's consideration tonight has revisions dated through May the 15th, 2019.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 92-2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution passes.
That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Mr. Taylor, good evening.
Good evening. Well, we're on for the budget tonight. Legislative bill,
Mr. Taylor, if you can talk into your mic.
Legislative Bill 2019-04, the annual budget and appropriation bill of Wicomico County, Maryland, to adopt the county budget consisting of the general fund, revenue, and expense budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, the capital budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, the governmental and enterprise funds budgets for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, and to appropriate funds for all expenditures for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019, and ending June 30, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Entertain a motion from council to approve Legislative Bill 2019-04.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President, I'd like to move to amend Legislative Bill 2019-04, as we discussed in our budget recap session. And that would specifically include the first part, reducing 05, the county executive's office by $85,000 as follows. For the PIO salary, $40,000. One-time community promotions, $20,000. Contractual services by $25,000. Second item is reduce Fund 07 Board of Elections by $15,000 for attorney contingency. C, add the surplus of $100,000 to the undesignated fund balance for future appropriation per the Charter Section 705F. That's, we do that if there's no agreement between the council and the executive about where the money that we cut should go to. Then amend the cover page of the operating budget to say adopted Wicomico County 2020 operating budget, and to include the word amended in the footer next to the page numbers that are being amended. And then in the text of Legislative Bill 2019-04 in sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, after the reference attached hereto is Wicomico County 2020 operating budget, change that to attached hereto is adopted Wicomico County 2020 operating budget.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
We, just for, I guess, order of this, because we got, what, 3 sections? Mark, I think you break that down.
Yeah, I'm just making this is the first
one of
amendment for the cuts.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
and then,
So I guess can we discuss them section by section, Mr. Cannon?
Yes, sir. Yeah, if you'd like to. Any discussion currently on the amendment that's just been made and seconded?
Oh, yeah, I'm actually fine with the second and third amendment, but the first amendment, yeah, I'm opposed to the first amendment, which is the cutting the funds from.
Which is what's on the table now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, it's duly noted. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
The amendment is approved. Any other discussion?
Need a motion for the second.
Yes.
Motion to amend the county appropriation of the BOE operating budget by category on pages 141, 140 and 141. And I need a second on that.
It's a motion, and we're looking for a second.
Second.
Discussion.
So that's for the Board of Education, some of the changes the Board of Education has made that we need to adopt. It doesn't change the appropriated amount to the Board of Education, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Correct,
Okay.
doesn't change the amount.
Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Second amendment passes. Any other discussion, any other amendments?
Number 3, as Bill mentioned, there was 3 here. Motion to add budget conditions to Exhibit A, Legislative Bill 2019-4. And we need a second on that.
There's a motion to add budget conditions as Exhibit A to Legislative Bill 2019-04. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion?
I would suggest Mr. Taylor read those conditions.
Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, this is Exhibit A, proposed Exhibit A to the budget that I'm reading from.
All right.
The 2 conditions are, number 1, funds appropriated by this budget as hereby adopted or hereafter amended are not appropriated and may not be expended or otherwise used as payment or compensation for legal services or representation by an attorney other than, 1, the county attorney appointed by the county executive and confirmed by the county council, 2, an attorney appointed by the county council as its attorney, 3, an attorney employed as special legal counsel for services approved by the county council in accordance with Section 507F of the Wicomico County Charter, or 4, an attorney employed or retained by an office or agency that is not part of the executive branch of the county government, including without limitation the state's attorney, sheriff, and boards of education, elections, and license commissioners. Condition 2, funds appropriated by this budget as hereby adopted or hereafter amended are not appropriated and may not be expended or otherwise used to compensate or furnish employment benefits for services performed by someone, 1, as the head of a department or agency in the executive branch of the county government, or in any other position for which appointment by the county executive is subject to confirmation pursuant to Section 315A of the Wicomico County Charter, unless before performing the services, he or she has been confirmed thereunder after the county election held on November 6, 2018, to serve in the position, or 2, as the acting head of a department or agency in the executive branch, or as the acting director of administration, unless he or she is qualified to serve in that capacity and the services were performed during a period that does not exceed 90 days or longer term approved pursuant to Charter Section 414B.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. There's an amendment on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Amendment passes. Any other discussion on the legislative bill as amended? All right, seeing none. We'll take a vote, roll call if we could, please. All of those in favor of legislative bill 2019-04 as amended. We'll start with Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Davis.
Aye.
Councilman Holloway.
Aye.
Councilman Hastings.
Aye.
Councilman Kilmer.
Aye.
Vice President Dodd.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Legislative bill 2019-04 as amended has been approved and adopted. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Ms. Hurley.
Next on the agenda, we have the veto of Legislative Bill 2019-03 and charter provision for council's reconsideration, which is Section 411D. Legislative Bill 2019-03 pertaining to the definition of termination at will in the Wicomico County Personnel Manual was introduced on April the 16th. The council then held a public hearing and adopted the bill on May the 7th. The legislation was then presented to the county executive on May 8th, for which he has 21 days to return the bill to the county council with either his approval or veto. The bill was returned to the council office on May the 24th with the executive's veto. Per Charter Section 411D, upon veto, the county executive shall provide in writing a statement for the reasons for the veto. The veto message shall be entered in the Journal of the County Council, and not later than at its next legislative day, the County Council may reconsider the bill. If upon reconsideration, at least 5 members of the County Council vote in the affirmative, the bill shall become law. A copy of the County Executive's veto message is in the briefing material for you, and with your permission, I will enter that into the record.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Entertain a motion from council to reconsider legislative bill 2019-03.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
I understand that this legislation was merely correcting a drafting error in the initial legislation and would bring the personnel manual into conformity with the county charter and the rest of the personnel manual. So I think it's a very uncontroversial bill, so I certainly support reconsideration.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, any input on this?
Unless there's a question, no, I think Mr. Kilmer hit it nail on the head.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of legislative bill 2019-03 as originally adopted, will say aye. We'll be doing this as a roll call. We'll start with Councilman Hastings.
Aye.
Councilman Kilmer.
Aye.
Vice President Dodd.
Aye.
Councilman
Aye.
Holloway. Councilman Davis.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Legislative bill number 2019-03 has been approved and adopted as originally adopted.
Okay, the next 2 items on the agenda are resolutions for the confirmation of a nominee to the Board of Education. At the May 21st council meeting, there was a tie vote, so the motion to appoint either of the nominees failed. Tonight, there are 2 resolutions at the council president's request to consider each nominee independently, which are numbered by the nominee's last name in alphabetical order.
Thank you, Mrs. Hurley. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 89-2019. Any motion? No motion? Resolution 89-2019 fails for lack of motion. Entertain a motion. Sorry, Ms. Hurley, go ahead.
Next is Resolution Number 90, 2019, confirming the appointment of Tanya Laird Lewis to the Wicomico County Board of Education.
Entertain a motion to approve Resolution 90, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Shannon, I'd like to
Discussion?
I'd like to ask that this be tabled
There's a motion to be tabled. Is there a second?
No, I haven't made a motion yet. I just want to ask this to be tabled. The reasons for me asking that is, first of all, actually, I want to thank the two candidates that have applied for this position. I mean, it's always admirable for everyone's willingness to serve, so I want to thank them. And I want to preface a couple comments that I'm about to make that, this is not about the candidates, it's about the process, the procedure, the law, transparency, and good governance. I have some concerns. Back in February, on February 5th, Ms. Hurley sent us an email outlining the process for appointing the school board member due to the vacancy that had occurred. And in that email, she attached Legislative Bill 145, and I'm not going to reread her email, but just in a sentence or two, in her, just to summarize it, in her email, she said that I've attached Bill 145, and that the school nominating commission is informed they have 60 days to submit the names of 2 nominees, and there's a process, and the school board nominating commission must follow in selecting the nominees, and the county council will then have 60 days to hold a public hearing and vote on the nominees. And then she said if the council deems them unacceptable, it returns the names to the school board nominating commission and requests that the commission submit the names that are qualified. And that began the process, and the county council followed that process all along, which led to our vote at our last meeting. And unfortunately, neither candidate was accepted at that meeting, and the resolution failed. And then the question became, well, what does that mean? And that was clearly articulated at the last meeting. If we look back in our minutes, and I'm just quoting right was from our minutes, Councilman or President Cannon said that when the vote was tied, and after some discussion, that this does not pass due to the fact of the tie, and this must go back to the nominating committee for another recommendation. But now here we sit here tonight, and it's clearly stated that the resolution to appoint one of the 2 submitted candidates failed, and thus it was to go back to the nominating committee. Ms. Hurley clearly stated that process to us. It was acknowledged. It was repeated by council persons. This has to go back to the committee. That process, though, has not happened. It is not going back to the nominating committee. And furthermore, it was clearly stated in the meeting that we need to complete this process in 60 days, according to Legislative Bill 145. We've been following that time frame since day one, and not one single council member, nor a county attorney, or anyone else has, during this entire process, ever questioned that validity of that 60-day window of time. Not one time. In fact, none of us on this council or our council attorney has ever questioned any part of this process since we started this back in February. And as I just stated in the minutes from the last meeting, no one at our last meeting questioned the validity of the state law. Until now, as we sit here today, some of that's now being questioned. I'm about done. So due to the last meeting's vote, we failed to accept either candidate. And failure to accept either candidate deemed them unacceptable as a result. Legislative Bill 145 is very clear on this issue. If that happens, then it automatically goes back to the nominating committee for them to submit 2 additional names. Like it or not, that's the process, that's the law, and thus here we are tonight. So I deem this vote, if we vote tonight, that would be invalid. And one last thing, in addition, I'm also very concerned about the fact that good governance means transparency to the public. We ended our last meeting informing the public that the school board appointment goes back to the nominating committee. However, here we are at our next meeting following that, and it's been placed on the agenda to vote again. But the public has not heard any discussion at a council meeting as to why this has not gone back to the nominating committee as they were informed, and to why or if or should this be voted on again. That should be a discussion at this table in an open forum for public consumption. the public's been denied that opportunity to hear the discourse surrounding this issue. And I submitted a request asking for this, to the council president to have this resolution withdrawn from the agenda so we could submit a request to the AG's office to get clarification on the many concerns around trying to revote. There's no harm, there's no foul in doing so, and then we would know for sure where we stand. This would clarify any confusion. It would be good, responsible government for the people, and I'm sure everyone at this table, we all want to get this right. So that would ensure that. So with all that said, I make a motion to table the resolution.
It's been a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Chair votes nay. So that's 4-3. The motion has not been, the resolution, the tabling of the resolution does not pass. Thank you, Councilman McCain. Any other, yes?
Yeah,
Mr. President, I'm recusing myself from the discussion and any vote on this issue because I consider it intentionally violating state law and at best potentially violating state law.
That's your right.
So
That's your right.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Thank you.
I was gonna agree with Councilman McCain partially and then not disagree with him some. I do, there should be a discussion. This is slightly unusual, and we can have that discussion right here, and I think we should. I disagree with Councilman McCain on what the law says. We spent a long time putting this process in place for choosing school board members, and I probably played a larger role than most council members in the process. So I'll be the first to admit that this process isn't working well, and I'll take my share of the blame for that. I think this has shown that the school board nominating commission process definitely needs some fixes, and I think that there could probably be there could be consensus on recommendations to the state to fix that, and I think that would be non-controversial and everyone would agree to that. However, this is the process we have, and it is state law. We didn't question the outline, the summary of the law, because I don't think we foresaw this thing stretching out. I don't think we foresaw tie votes for either of these nominees. And so when things are working well, you don't question them. When your car is working well, you don't question how the car runs. When your car breaks down on the side of the road, all of a sudden you start questioning, what's wrong with it? How does the car work? So I think after our last meeting, it wasn't stated that we had to return them to the nominating commission. It was clearly stated we could revote if someone changed their vote or change their mind, or we could send it back to the nominating commission. The 60-day time limit is discussed in the legislation, and our county attorney has looked at this, I think, after some question. 60 days, the law specifically says within 60 days after the county council receives the names of the nominees from the commission, the county council shall hold a public hearing regarding the nominees, period. The 60 days is tied, in my reading of the law, to the public hearing. It says after the hearing, if the county council deems at least one of the nominees acceptable, the county council shall vote on the nominees. We are after the hearing, and it's the language I recognize could be written better. It is somewhat ambiguous. That should probably be clarified, if not the whole nominating commission process scrapped. But I think that we are within our rights to have another vote. This isn't how I would have preferred to have this. I would prefer to have it settled 2 weeks ago, but we're in the situation we're in. The school board seat needs filled. We have 2 nominees that are acceptable. We have to decide which one is more acceptable. I think it's not that either of them are unacceptable. It's that both nominees are acceptable. We have to decide which one we prefer out of those 2 acceptable candidates. And so while this process hasn't been a great process, and I'm not happy we're back here doing this, I do think we are within the law, and I feel comfortable casting a vote on this resolution, 90-2019.
Right. And I do have some agreements and disagreements. I heard the statement that we were going to send it back to the nominating committee because we didn't have 2 qualified or worthy candidates, whatever the terminology was. But I disagree. We do have 2 qualified candidates, and they were put forward, and they were the only 2 that actually applied. This whole process has hit snags and a bumpy road 12 years ago, and from day one, we've discussed this over and over again. It was shot down several years ago, and then we had to start all over again. And then we had the 4 hearings as required, and then the state legislature approved it. So now here we are. Unfortunately, we had a board member pass away, and that's been quite a few months. And I think that the Board of Education desperately needs somebody to fill that seat. These two candidates stepped up to the plate, and I think a recount of the vote is acceptable at this time.
Josh?
I would just say, we do have two decent candidates, two good candidates, and we do need, regardless, we do need to take a look at the way this is written, and we could make a lot of good changes there. I'll leave it at that. But I will say that I did, in the last 12 hours, I've probably gotten a dozen phone calls and emails about if we are making a choice that's not congruent with law. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but for that reason, I'll abstain. But I do say we have two good candidates, and it's not that I think any of us have determined that either are not acceptable as the law currently says that we are supposed to say.
Thank you, Councilman Hastings.
I think the statement Bill made, there's a lot to that, but the one statement he made when he said they were deemed unacceptable, neither candidate was deemed unacceptable. It was a tie vote.
Correct.
And I think we need to move forward with this, put it, maybe put it in front of legal at some point in time to try to find out what we're going to do if it happens again. But the unacceptable part, I don't agree with. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Holland. Any other council comments?
I don't think that the candidates were unacceptable. I think they were both good candidates. But along the lines of what Mr. McCain was saying, we did make a statement that we were going to put it back to the nominating committee, and all of a sudden it was put back on the table for some other reason, and I think we should have went along with what we said, what we should have done, and then looked into the matter, see what legal stuff was in there that was wrong.
Thank you, Councilman Davis.
Abstain from voting too.
Any other comments?
Yeah, this is our first attempt at it, and I think it's a learning game right now. So hopefully by the next time that we have to put the committee together, that we'll work out all these concerns.
Well, I think it points to the problems of having people appointed to the school board. I mean, it strengthens my conviction that election is the best way to settle this, but unfortunately, Mr. Gosley passed away, and that was a very sad incident. So there has to be a backup, and this is the way it was designed. It could be designed better, but yeah.
Any other comments? Yeah, I would say that, yeah, this is truly unconventional. In all my time on the council, maybe even with Councilman Holloway, very seldom, if ever, that a resolution has been brought back to the table. The reason this resolution has been brought back to the table is simply right here. It's, I carry that responsibility. And I do want to explain why. It was never explained why previously. I could probably put out a press release, but I thought it may be a little bit, it might have been overdoing it a little bit. But I do need to try to share with you my perspective as to why this has been brought back to the table. When the vote was taken at our last meeting, I had made the decision that I was going to abstain because I had a conflict, with Mr. Hawkins, simply, in reference to family associations, et cetera. It was simply that. That was what my conflict was. But where I felt that I made the serious mistake was that I was treating both applicants as running against each other. So I stated to the council, I have to abstain because, I have a conflict. So I abstained. But after the fact, what I realized had happened was that my conflict was with one individual only and not with both. But what I had realized was, in abstaining due to my conflict with Mr. Hastings, my abstention with Ms. Lewis penalized her. I was in effect abstaining and had no reason to abstain. But again, I had been perceiving it as you might look at an election when two people are running against each other. After the fact, I realized that wasn't the case. I needed to take both of them, consider both of them independently for their independent merits. So that's why I thought it was incumbent upon me to bring this back to the table for the council, for the two applicants who took that much time to put their names forward, and to the county as a whole. I also did not want to see this process unnecessarily delayed simply because of an error on my part. This would go 2, 3, and 4 months on from here on out with additional public hearings additional advertising, additional meetings, which I felt that I did not want to encumber the committee with that, nor the council. So that's really the long and short of it. I had abstained on both individuals, should not have done that. I was wrong in that perception, and that's why, as president of the council, I brought this back to the table. Again, unconventional, but it is allowed. In reference to the 60 days, a lot of emails had to have gone out in reference to this illegal 60 days. Unfortunately, it was, in my opinion, it was a misperception. Mr. Taylor was kind enough to let us know that his, as Councilman Kilmer shared with you, he was kind to let us know that the 60-day limitation was our requirement to hold a public hearing, not to take a vote. And we did hold the public hearing within that 60-day period. There is no deadline as far as when the council is responsible to take the vote. So we are still well within our parameters. I hope that's clear enough for everybody. It's something that I had not said before, and I wanted to get it out here tonight just so that it was a little clearer for everyone else. Unfortunately, as it is, we're going to see from the first vote that Mr. Hawkins, the individual who I have had a conflict with, is not going to be selected. And as everyone said here, he is a very qualified candidate, and I appreciate that. But when you get a 3-3 tie, you have a 3-3 tie, and unfortunately, that is the circumstances. So that being said, we need to continue on. Any other discussion on Resolution 90, 2019?
I appreciate you owning up to your error.
There's only so many times I ask for your support, Larry. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion on Resolution 90, 2019? Seeing none. All those in favor of Resolution 90, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution passes.
I'll make a note, I'll abstain.
Yes, and we have one abstention.
Thanks.
All right.
And one recused.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, let's do that right. We have 4 in favor, 2 abstentions, and 1 who has recused himself. Okay? For the record. Thank you, and congratulations, Mrs. Lewis.
Next for consideration is Resolution Number 69, 2019, to amend the fiscal year's 2019-2023 capital budget to reallocate $947,066 from various airport projects to the UAS hangar project. This resolution was tabled at the last meeting so the airport manager could get additional information from the FAA, and she is with us tonight if you have any questions.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 69, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of Resolution 69, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution passes.
Okay, the next item for consideration is Resolution Number 91, 2019, confirming Michele Ennis, Ph.D., to serve as the head of the Department of Finance in accordance with the Wicomico County Charter.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 91, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All those in favor of Resolution 91, 2019, say aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Abstain.
We have 1 abstention. Chair votes nay. Resolution 91, 2019 does not pass, and the confirmation has been rejected.
The next item for business is Resolution Number 93, 2019, to levy and impose a property tax for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020, to provide for the payment of a service charge by a property owner on a semi-annual payment schedule, setting the tax rates for real and personal property, and providing for the collection of the property tax. And we do have Mr. Wayne Strasburg here if there are any questions.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 93, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion.
I think it should be pointed out the tax rate is slightly lower this year. They're slightly lower for the coming year than it is this year, so that's moving in the right direction.
Thank you, Marc.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 93, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution passes.
Next for consideration is Resolution Number 94, 2019, approving and adopting an honorary street sign policy and application. Council held a work session on this on April the 16th. The changes recommended by council at that work session have been made to the policy, and the policy is now before you for final consideration.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 94, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
Is,
Yeah, the only thing that I would recommend is that that sign isn't going to be that large. I would prefer that it's at no bigger than the same size that we currently have for our street signs.
And that would be the case, right?
Thank you.
It's just a mock-up.
Yeah, I realize that, but people out in the public look at that and they're, my, that's going to be gaudy.
Yes, Josh?
I would say that I think there was a discussion of whether or not it would be a 10-year period or a, or what the right year, how many years you should have a sign up for a given individual who is to be honored. I don't know if right now is the right time, and I have no strong feelings on it, but maybe maybe it might suggest that 20 years might be a better time period if you're going to name a road after somebody and honor somebody. Move the threshold up a little bit. Otherwise, I'd make a motion that we'll start naming Nanacoke Road after our leaving councilman.
It's a state road.
Oh wait, that's good. Just kidding. No,
I appreciate
but
that.
I think we do need actually discussion there. Is if we are going to move forward, I have no real strong feelings of it, but I do think we don't want to be inundated with a lot of requests. And if it were as simple as having up a sign for for only a decade or less, I'd rather the bar be moved a little bit higher to say that these individuals of great merit who we should really honor and recognize, and maybe a longer consideration for amount of years that might do that. But once again, I have no strong feelings.
Yeah, and I had some concerns with that as well, and I think we can discuss that further, but right now some of the people that wanted to name a street after a person was very credible. And
There's
Yes.
also, I think there was concern about the cost to the county of it. It might cost the county around $100, I think was maybe suggested. I mean, I'd be okay with adding that whoever wants to do it would have to reimburse the county for the cost up to $100 or a flat $100 rate.
Yeah, I think a cost had come up in our work session.
it
Yeah.
did.
And I think we had, with Mr. Baker's input, they had suggested it was rather inconsequential and not necessary. But it's strictly, up to the council as to how you want to address that. Mr. Strasburg, did you have a comment on it?
We estimate the cost at about $100, so it's not a big
Per sign.
per sign.
I would be okay with putting the cost in the application process, the fee.
Okay. All right. Add $100?
Yes.
Do we need
Is
to
that
amend?
okay with the executive? Because I think he expressed some concern.
No, that's just for the sign itself, that's not for the labor to put it up.
Yeah.
So, 2 men to go out and put up the sign. So,
Is that going to be a burden on the county?
I don't know if there's gonna be a burden. Put up signs every day.
I mean, this is not going to come up all the time.
What's gonna happen when?
If you could, Bob, we need you on the mic, please.
What's gonna happen is a question, what is gonna happen if somebody knocks it over, or someone hits it in a car accident? Of course, accidents insurance will take care of it, but you've got, people who just knocked them down or something like that. So, I think you need to really be a little bit more specific as to what the cost is. And Dallas, we just got the question today that you all wanted us to find out the total cost, and the cost of the sign was about $100. The cost of labor to put it up, you've got 2 men averaging $15 an hour next year or two. So that's $60 right there. So, whatever you all determine, if it's inconsequential, that's fine.
Should we amend this to leave it up to the county executive to what to charge for that? Or
I think we can come up with that decision. I really do. I think we need to come up with that decision in the resolution.
Okay.
I just think the Public Works ought to come up with it. They know what the cost is, and it's
Okay.
gonna keep going up. The labor cost is gonna go up, the sign's gonna go up, so.
Let's table this until they get more information.
Well, we have a motion to table. Is it a second?
I'll second that. yeah.
All right, motion to table, second. All those in favor?
Make it
No.
right. Yeah.
Opposed? All right.
Makes sense.
Hang on a second, figure out what resolution we're looking at.
94.
Resolution 94, 2019 has been tabled, probably to the next meeting. Maybe it's going to warrant a work session. What are we going to do on the sign, though? That's what I'd like to know, because that could go on forever, and I really think we're going to need to evaluate the sign. I don't know whether the actual colors and everything else on the sign need to be in this document, because they're,
You may want to change that from time to time, John.
yeah.
You know, I think we're going to want to revisit this. You're probably going to want to revisit costs, down the road, because they'll change.
Yeah. A lot of us won't be here to do that.
The
other people.
I would encourage you not to paint yourselves into a corner right now.
Yeah.
And
All right.
adopt whatever resolution you do to give you flexibility as you move forward.
And I'd recommend staying away from the Pittsburgh Steelers colors.
All right, we'll work on,
Work up a couple plans for you, you bring them back here, you all determine colors and get an actual size. And I think that's a better sign. This looks like a billboard.
And the other thing, I'm just thinking, is it adaptable to all the road signs that's already there? Is it going to be adaptable,
Yeah, we would size each sign
Yeah.
to be the same size as the existing street sign.
But as far as how to mount it without having to change the post and everything else, that's something else we need.
And that would be consistent with what the city's doing.
we have a tabled resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So, at
That's
this
all I
time-
have for now.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley.
That's just,
At this time, I entertain a motion to adjourn from legislative session and enter into County Board of Health.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're now convened as the Wicomico County, the County Board of Health.
Lori, you cleared the room?
Don't turn around.
I'll leave it.
How are you?
Okay?
Let's wait till it clears. Okay, start with you.
Good evening. I'm Lori Brewster, Health Officer for Wicomico County, and as per Maryland State regulation, we have to meet at least twice a year as the local Board of Health, so I thank you. And I provided you with some overview of some of the topics that I felt that we needed to cover. The first being the community health assessment, needs assessment that we did in collaboration with Peninsula Regional Medical Center. We did this over the past, it's been a little over a year. We held focus groups. We did key informant interviews, or I say we, it was a contractor that we worked with. They also pulled primary and secondary health data for us to review and to make some informed decisions on where we see our priorities for the next 3 years. So the data that we looked at actually showed that our top 3 priorities were behavioral health. That's not a surprise to anybody with the opioid and addiction issues in our country. The second one is diabetes and chronic disease in general, with obesity and hypertension involved in that. The third area, which is a resurgent area, we had this as an area of priority in the past, is now cancer. It really doesn't have a whole lot to do with a rise in cancer rates. It just seems to be an area of concern that the hospital as well as the health department thinks that we need to begin to delve into a little bit further. We soon will be developing an implementation plan with the contractor, which is Conduent Health out of the Midwest, and they will be developing a website for the hospital and the health department. We have put our document on our website for public review, so It's about 100 and some pages and actually has the data points on it for review for anyone that wants to see it.
Lori, will that have like an executive summary for people?
It does. It has an executive summary. With those being the three priorities, we still seem to have a problem with sexually transmitted diseases, infections in Wicomico County. So the health department has maintained their task force. We're working with multiple factions in the community, including the Board of Education, Chesapeake Healthcare, the hospital, and trying to get some messaging out. I brought this up at the last year this time, that gonorrhea and chlamydia infections are of concern, and they remain a concern, and it seems to be a lower shore problem at this point. Opioid issues and our COAT team update. I know that you all are wanting to know how things are going. We just received an update on 2018 data. Wicomico County data is relatively stable from 2017. We did have a very large drop, if you remember, from 2016 to 2017, and that's when we initiated our COAT team. I will say that the overdose cases that are arriving in the emergency department up until this past weekend actually had been on the decline. Something happened over the past weekend, and we're trying to put our thumbs on it, but we don't really have an answer to that. We have multiple overdoses over the weekend.
Did they stop showing the commercial?
Yeah, maybe. But it wasn't just Wicomico County that was seeing the overdose issues this past, well, it's been about 10 days.
I heard we had a really bad set of circumstances over the weekend, and even what, 1 or 2 deaths maybe?
I don't think that there's been any final numbers, but that's what I'm hearing as well.
Are the problems still, I mean, where is it still? Is it with oxycodone, or is it primarily fentanyl now?
What we're getting is a primary fentanyl being mixed in combination with cocaine again.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the mixtures, people think that they are getting cocaine, and it's pure fentanyl. So that's why people are dying. I don't know that we've actually had this in Wicomico County. Sheriff's representative, is he still here? They're mixing it now with marijuana. And people are not knowing that they are getting fentanyl in their marijuana as well. So that's going to be an interesting course.
Why are they doing that? I mean, why would you, what's the motive for that?
Fentanyl can make the product go a lot further because it requires you to use less of it. Mm-hmm. If I brought in 2 vials, one with opiates and one with fentanyl, it's a whole lot less. It's about a tenth of what you would need as far as an opiate. So you can get more bang for your buck, so to speak.
Well, we all know that. I mean, the officers, they have to wear gloves if they're anywhere near an investigation of fentanyl.
Correct.
Simply because just getting it on their fingers
Correct.
Can be a health hazard, if not deadly. So you're saying now then that it's not people who are, because I didn't know this, it's not people who are still maybe looking for that heroin fix or whatever it might be. You're saying now that people who could just be, recreationally using marijuana or recreationally using cocaine, maybe purchasing this, smoking this, or don't know where they might, and not even knowing that it's being mixed with the fentanyl.
That's correct. I'm not saying that we don't have those that are going after the ultimate high.
Sure.
But we have individuals that are not aware that they are actually using fentanyl.
Okay.
Our COAT team continues to expand its services. They seem to be in great need in the community. We are working on a harm reduction program, trying to advise individuals of better means of dealing with their addiction and their life. We wrote for and received funding for a safe station model. Those of you that have heard Anne Arundel may know that Anne Arundel has had a safe station in their firehouses for a couple of years. We chose a different model. We are working in cooperation and collaboration with the Recovery Resource Center, expanding their hours to 24-hour capacity because we feel that that's a place that individuals generally will attend and feel comfortable going to. And our peers will be responding there to try to link the individuals up
And it's
with
where they
treatment.
should go.
Correct. You may be seeing on some of the social media sites, Wicomico's going purple. We're joining forces with much of the state. There will be a kickoff on June 21st, I think, a press conference at the Third Friday event, a true kickoff at Shorebird Stadium on August the 31st. And we will be going purple for the month of September to make people aware of the issues surrounding opioid use and addiction in general. So more to come on that. And the last thing, this last legislative session, just so that the public is aware, Tobacco 21 legislation passed, a true public health victory. It's contagious. Goes into effect October of 2019. And it does include vaping devices and the juuling devices. One population is excluded, and that's the military personnel. So individuals out in the community now will have to be 21 in order to purchase tobacco.
I have a question on the vaping, and I was at one of the baseball fields last Thursday, and I was sitting up in the bleachers, and someone on the front row was puffing away. I thought they were on fire. There was so much smoke. And I said, I know they're not smoking because there's signs up saying no smoking. They had a pack of cigarettes next to them, and I was watching, and they were vaping. Then another person came and sat next to them, and the whole time for about an hour they were vaping. But there's nothing on the sign. It has the health department, Wicomico, Recs and Parks about no smoking, but does it say anything about vaping?
That's correct. The Clean Indoor Air Act and all of the true non-smoking areas are not necessarily legislated for the vaping and the juuling. We can make that part of the policy if the county would like to do that, but that is something that we would have to have policies for.
Yeah. I know some jurisdictions have made no vaping while they're working, as well as no smoking. And on different campuses, it's not allowed. So I'm just wondering about that and on baseball fields.
I'd love that.
Sports field. Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, I'd love to know more, and if that's possible, because certainly I don't know, I continue to see the trend is what I thought was the trend is a lot more kids picking up vaping instead, and it can be just as dangerous. And there's if we could eliminate that from areas where they could be exposed, that'd be great.
Is that something we can actually legislate, or is that just something that the executive office can implement?
You can pass a regulation or a code or law based upon the work that we do as the local board of health, and then it has to be passed as legislation by the county. Thank you.
Sure. I had a question on environmental health because it's not listed. I was curious because I know that it's been a real issue, I think more so over the last few months, in the last 6 to 8 months. But I didn't see it on here. Just curious as to where we are with the environmental health as a whole.
Making progress. We're working with Maryland Department of the Environment on developing an exit strategy for their services. They will always be within the Health Department because that's their responsibility as the MDE provides a delegation agreement to the Health Department to perform those services, so they have to provide oversight. Progress is being made, and we're moving things along.
Should that be part of the list as what's on here? I really wasn't sure. I've always seen environmental health, a very important part of the health department as a whole, just as much as opioids or any other division of the health department.
I'm sure that that is seen as a big picture, but I will say that when you look at the Code of Maryland regulations around the Board of Health, it has nothing to do with the Maryland Department of the Environment. It's all about the Maryland Department of Health. And that's why this report was based upon health issues and not environmental health.
So how does it fit in? Because, I mean, you have employees, and that's what they do every day. You have a department within your department that is environmental health. So I don't understand why it wouldn't be included as the local Board of Health in your priorities.
The local Board of Health is out of the health article under Maryland Department of Health. As I said, Maryland Department of the Environment provides a delegation agreement to the local health department for the duties associated with the wells and septic activities within the county, which is part of the Maryland Department of the Environment articles, not the Maryland Department of Health articles. There is a component of our environmental health program that is part of the Department of Health, which is related to food service, pools, rabies, and daycare reviews. But that's part of the Maryland Department of Health component, not the Department of Environment. So there's two separate components there.
So if we were curious about environmental health, how would we address it formally? And in recognizing what the goals might be locally, where we are as far as our efficiency of operations, permits, et cetera, where does that fall into the formal doctrine of the health department, Wicomico County Health Department?
Well, I would hope that if you had questions or concerns, that you would put them in writing to me so that I had an opportunity to address those. And then, if I could not address those, then we could come to an agreement on where to go to next, which is the Maryland Department of the Environment.
Well, I understand that 100%, and you're very helpful with your input. And there's more than one time I've had to ask you numerous questions across the board, and I appreciate that. But my question was really, where is it in the structure? I understand fully that we can call you or anyone else who's been very helpful in that entire department, but I'm wondering where it is in the structure.
I'm not real sure I understand your question. The environmental health component of our health department is part of the health department, but it is part of a delegated agreement from the Maryland Department of the Environment. And that's why when there were deficiencies noted from 2012 to 2013, Maryland Department of the Environment came in to assist us to try to make those corrections.
Well, I think it seems like we're just going back and forth, but I mean, in your list to us today, or the list from June 4th, it says community health needs assessment, continue to address sexually transmitted infections, opioid code update, tobacco 21 legislation, and I was really looking further down and didn't see environmental health. I just thought that would be on there.
Because that's not part of the responsibilities of the local Board of Health. That's part of the delegation agreement from the Maryland Department of the Environment.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
Entertain a motion to adjourn from the County Board of Health and enter into legislative session.
So move.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? This time, we open the floor for public comments. If you have any comments that you'd like to make, please come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns.
Hello again, Lynette Kenny, Porter Mill Road, Hebron, and I would like to pass this around, if you don't mind. It's one of your documents, but I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I opened it up this morning in my email, and I thought it needed, a few things needed to be addressed on that. In looking through this, it's a lot like the picture that was in the packet of information I got. It was like a satellite view of the situation, and I wanted to add more details that give you a better clarity of what's going on. And I appreciate you listening to us last time and your input and the contact that we have received back from you. This is an issue that I don't think is going away. It's the beginning, and it depends on where we move forward from here, how this product is controlled or regulated. And I don't like to use those words too often. I think we are over-regulated in a lot of areas, but this needs to be thought about and looked at seriously. In the first issue, it said that the tank will be used for storage of a poultry processing byproduct that is approved and regulated by the Maryland Department of Agriculture as a soil amendment. As I understand it, and it would be good if we could talk to somebody who knew for sure, most of this product, well, some of this product is coming from the poultry companies. It's the waste product. We're calling it sludge, but it's not really. It's a watery substance that they can go through the injectors and go into the fields. So it's not a soupy mixture, but for the sake of just what people commonly know it, we're calling it sludge. The issue is that perhaps some of this product is coming from Valley Proteins, which is a company, a rendering plant near Linkwood, and Valley Proteins is a big company that is over several places outside of the state. The question is, if the product is coming from Valley Protein, what is it? Is it agricultural or is it industrial? Do we know exactly what that product is? They pick up waste, spent oils from grocery stores and from restaurants, and that's used in their production, and that's part of this as well. So my question is this purely an agricultural process, or can it be listed, should it be listed as commercial and industrial? It said on the second item, it says the permitted use is as permitted as 5 acres of land. Okay, that's great. It's if it is an agricultural product. But I would like to call your attention to the code, which was also in the packet. And I didn't have much time to read through this, but this jumped out at me. It's in section 186(1)B, where it says, it is in the public interest to promote a more clear understanding between agricultural operations and non-agricultural neighbors, and that's us, concerning the normal conveniences of agricultural operations which follow generally accepted agricultural practices and do not endanger public health or safety. Most of us have lived in a rural area for decades, really. Sometimes, some of us all of our lives. And we are very well acquainted with normal agricultural inconveniences, and we don't consider them inconveniences at all. We live with them, you know, that's part of our life. This is something new. And I question whether, again, is it fall under the agricultural umbrella? The tank will be located on an unimproved and mostly wooded 85-acre property. Well, this is what I received in your packet. This is Porter Mill Road, this is Reagan Road, this is where the tank is located. And if you look at you probably all got this memo yourself. It's like a 200, between 200 and 300 feet from Porter Mill. These houses here, 200 to 300 feet from this tank itself. This section of wooded land is where the tank is the property, but the tank is located right there. I also have some
Yeah.
other pictures that I didn't, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Nutrient management regulations prohibit field application of the product from mid-December through February, and that is true. These tanks hold about 6,000 gallons. This is a 3 million gallon tank. You do the math, it figures to be about 500 truckloads in. Those trucks have to turn around and go back out. That's a lot of truck traffic along there. They can operate day and night through that period. The product cannot be spread on the fields through that time period, so it has to be stored somewhere. This is a 3 million gallon new tank. Where's that 3 million gallons being stored now? I don't know. I've asked and I can't find out. Starting the 1st of March and probably March into April, it's a real heavy truck traffic into that to pick up the product, to pick it up and put it on the field. And from that time on, they're emptying the tank, but they're also taking the waste products from the poultry companies and spreading it directly on the field. So there's a lot of traffic back and forth, of course. So it's not just a 2.5 month period. It's probably more like 5 months. If it's a rainy period, this product cannot go on the fields because the tractors and the trucks can't get on the field. So they still have to go to the tank and store it somewhere. That's something to keep in mind. It's a pretty hefty commercial process that's going on here. A similar storage facility has been in operation in Wicomico County for more than 10 years. P&Z has no record of any complaints regarding that site. A few of us actually went to that site to see what we were talking about, so we would know what we were talking about. And it's true, that has been there for over 10 years as a cow manure tank. When the farmer went out of business about a couple years, a year and a half, 2 years ago, he converted it to this product. He knows where it's coming from. He knows it's coming from Amick. He knows where it's coming from Mount Air. He can smell the difference between the two companies. That's how well he knows his product. His is a 1 million gallon tank as opposed to a 3 million gallon tank. So there is less traffic in there. The odors associated with this, it's very common to him and to the area because it's been a dairy farm. It's a century farm, so over 100 years it's been operating. It's old. It's an old farm. And I just wanted to point out to the pictures to you. This is his farm. And in the middle of this is his tank. The closest residential properties right here are on his property. The closest property is his house. This is a farm house that's been there. The lady has been living there. She's 80, 90 years old. He has asked her, does this smell bother you? She says, I smell it, but I'm used to it. She loves him, okay? That's the difference. But you can see that it is a very sparsely populated, and the residences are on his property. This is our area. This is where the tank will be. These houses are no further away than 1/4 mile, all of these houses. All up and down Porter Mill, I think there was, within a 1/2 mile distance up and down Porter Mill, there was something like 22 homes. And Reagan Road, I didn't even count them. So it's a much more populous area. That needs to be considered as well. For future planning, I don't know if there's anything we can do now. But for future planning, and I think you mentioned an agricultural zone, something like this needs to be considered further than just find out about it and then they start building it. We found out about this 1 week before we last spoke to you. That's how long we had, and we kept on it. We heard rumors, and we kept calling planning and zoning, and finally they say yes, a permit has been applied for. So we had 1 week before we came in here to speak to you. That's all the notice we had, and that's all the time we had to gather information on it. I would say that in closing, I understand the right to farm, and I certainly do not want to put any more restrictions on the farmers. And the poultry industry is vital to our Wicomico County's economy. I understand that. There has to be some way to work between the agricultural community, the poultry industry, and the residents to make this equitable for everybody. And I certainly don't want I don't want to make it bad on anybody, but I think there needs to be some consideration given here of where these things go. If this is the first one, and it's lucrative, but where's the next one going? And thank you. And I also want to end up, you folks work pretty fast, because at the end of Porter Mill and Riggin Road, we talked about how bad the roads were last time. Tonight they dropped off a road paver, and they're going to asphalt it. It's not going to be tar and chipped. So that was pretty good. So I got to commend you for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kenny.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening. Members of the council. My name is Bob Van Meter. I live at 9438 Alpha Road, Mardella Springs, Maryland. I'm not going to berate you with the repeated comments that have already been stated tonight in prior meetings. I do wish to bring something to your attention. In those comments, truck traffic was mentioned. Yesterday morning, while walking, I observed Burns Farms truck traveling north on Alpha Road, approaching the intersection of Bridge Street. The driver did not slow down. He did not stop. He downshifted, continued up the grade, and went through the stop sign. I was standing within 20 feet of that truck, and know it was a Burns Farm truck, if we want to call that a farm. And if there had been a collision in that intersection, whether he is partially empty or loaded, it's going to be a catastrophic event. This is on a grade. It runs in two directions, one to Barron Creek, one to Mill Branch. Both of them would have been contaminated. I have personally responded to waste spills from Valley Protein trucks multiple times in my life. Here within the city limits of Salisbury, Michele Street, the dreaded S-turn. Once I recall a valve being open on that truck and the accidents that occurred there post the cleanup, or we'll call it a cleanup. You can't get the stuff out of the pores of the asphalt. You can't get it out of the pores of the concrete. You can bring all the fire department apparatus you want, try to flush it down. As soon as it rains, out of control, into poles, into each other. In this morning's Sun papers, gentlemen, there's a story about a woman who fell and drowned in an unprotected open-top tank in Baltimore sewer plant. This morning, you can check it on the, I tried to get the Sun paper, and I couldn't find it in the Sun paper, but it's in this morning's Sun paper. She fell into an open-top tank and drowned in sewage. Granted, it's a different product than what's in this 3 million gallon tank. Same catastrophic event can occur. I'm not aware of any safety requirements in place for this tank, this operation. If anybody can enlighten me on them, I'd be glad to hear them. Even a dairy must have a spilled milk response plan to clean up the milk, because there are proteins in the milk. Those proteins contain certain types of oils, and the EPA has regulation over it. According to their website, Valley Proteins, Inc. does not produce any type of agricultural product. They bill themselves as a waste specialist. I went to their website today and read it, reread it, or I wouldn't be up here saying it. Valley Proteins is an industrial operation. They're not a farm. This tank is being installed to facilitate Valley Proteins. The only similarity to this tank being the same as a farmer wanting to build a new barn is a similarity of an earthworm to an anaconda. Valley Proteins is an industrial operation, and they just need more storage. Now, they may be selling it under the guise that Mr. Burns wants to put this on farms. This is it's a ruse, folks. I drive about 4 times, sometimes 5, to the Baltimore metro area weekly. Every day, I pass Valley Protein trucks eastbound out of the metro area coming into Linkwood, Delaware. They purchase, according to their website, they take oil waste from restaurants and other food processing facilities to bring them in there under the auspices. They're going to make it into dog food, render it. Nowhere's on their website, this is their website, do I see anything dealing with them producing a farm product. Now, gentlemen, it's been mentioned that the building permit has been issued and that ends it. I had someone in the public tell me that. I suggested several times that things need to happen about this. I support the right to farm regulations. There are 4 chicken houses within 1,000 feet of my front door. They're good neighbors. Those chickens don't fight. They don't have loud parties. Occasionally they squawk a little bit when they're leaving, but all in all, I knew it was there when my wife and I built the house. And however, that was not the case with some of my neighbors. They built their houses 40, 45 years ago. And now, under the guise that this is a right to farm regulation, that we don't have any option, we're going to allow this operation to move into their backyard. Their quality of life will be so minimal, they won't even be able to come out of their house. If you've ever smelled this stuff being applied, it's the most obnoxious odor, and I've smelled decomposing human bodies multiple times. This stuff stinks. It will turn your stomach. It's time for Wicomico County to reevaluate what type of farming practices can take place in respect to established communities. It's time to address this through zoning. This is 2019. It's not 500 BC in Persia. The issuing authority of this building permit is not Artaxerxes, whose decree could not be changed. I'm suggesting, gentlemen, any issued government document can be rescinded by competent authority. Examples of that are warrants. They can be recalled or quashed. Driver's licenses can be suspended, revoked, or recalled. That issue is taking place right now in the public eye. DMV is getting ready to recall driver's licenses that aren't in compliance with the regulations. It was emphasized to me in both my criminal law classes and my constitutional law classes that 2 things are very important in court: definition and precedent. Valley Proteins, Inc. is not a farm. They are waste collectors on an industrial scale. Precedent is established in Dorchester County. They weren't going to let this happen in their county. Valley Proteins is an industrial, I stress it again, they are an industrial operation. I suggest that the county, through its attorney, and the reason I'm saying this, I sense that there is pending litigation going to happen. I do not want to see our county and the community at odds with each other, either in circuit court or in U.S. District Court. I just think this can be resolved without those things happening. I'm really concerned that that's going to happen. I suggest that the county, through its attorney, petition the circuit court for a stay, a rescission, an injunction of this building permit until this thing can be sorted out, and more stable, more accurate zoning and issuance practices put in place for this type of an operation. I thank you for your time, and I greatly appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Connie Rayner. I live at 25424 Porter Mill Road. I have known Mr. Burns for years, watched his kids grow up and everything. He injects this industrial waste in the field next to me. We've asked him not to do it because it makes me sick. It gives me a headache. If I stay out there 10 or 15 minutes, I feel like I'm going to throw up. We asked him if he could just skip that field. It's only maybe 4 or 5 acres. He stated no. He made too much money. So he doesn't care about us. And we're asking that you care about us. Something needs to be done before this gets out of hand, because if it doesn't, it's gonna come to a field next to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. Any other comments?
My name is Jerry Pusey. I live at 25390 Porter Mill Road in Hebron, next to Connie Rayner. And I don't know yet, and won't know until that tank is there, just how badly I'll be affected by it. I've lived where I live now for 47 plus years. We enjoy our lifestyle there. It's been quiet, and none of this type of thing has ever been a threat to us. But having smelled this stuff when I go down Porter Mill Road on the areas that this has been applied to, if any of you have ever smelled it, you will never forget it. It's the worst stuff that I have ever smelled in my life. And I do hope that you folks will do whatever is in your power to keep this from spreading, so to speak. Mr. Burns, I know very informally, but he obviously does not have a whole lot of concern for the people who are living in that area now. And there's plenty of homes closer to that tank than mine is, and I'm within half a mile. So with that, again, thank you for listening to us, and hope that you can take some steps to remedy this for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Pusey.
Hello again. My name is Pamela Olszewski. I live on Porter Mill Road. And some of the points I wanted to make have been made, but one thing I did want to point out is I read the Right to Farm Act or provision this afternoon, and I saw that people like me and my neighbors don't have a lot of leeway here, except that I did notice that the state law does not prohibit a federal, state, or local government from enforcing health, environmental, zoning, or any other applicable law. So you still can do something about this, and I thought it was interesting that you brought up environmental health this evening, because I certainly don't know if there's a long-term effect to living next to this chicken byproduct, 3 million gallons of it, but I don't know, and I don't think anybody else knows. And so this could become a long-term health hazard for us. It also is a long-term financial hazard for us too. When you think about once this structure goes up and these trucks go up and down the road, what happens to my property values? I teach at Salisbury University. I plan on retiring in the school year. My house is paid for. It's not a fancy house. My house is paid for. I enjoy living there. I don't know what's going to happen. This is keeping me up at night. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning. It's causing me undue stress. I go out in my backyard that I enjoy immensely and wonder how much longer I'm going to get to enjoy it. I hope that you all can do something about this, can help us out. Because, and one other thing is that I noticed too that in the local right to farm ordinance, that there is something called the good neighbor policy, and it states the good neighbor policy is generally a statement that pertains to those normal activities, it's not a normal activities, associated with agriculture or forestry production that are being performed during various times of the year. This is a statement that will provide daily activities in a manner that will have a minimal impact on the environment and health. So I don't know if this was done. Is there a good neighbor policy? Were we supposed to know about this ahead of time? I think that it would be prudent if the ball could get rolling on this so that Farmer Burns doesn't spend lots of money to produce something that he can't use in the future. And I guess that's pretty much it for me, but I hope that you can help us out with this. Like Mr. Pusey said, this could happen to you too. if you live in the county. I looked at the zoning map today, and with the exceptions of the areas that are right next to the towns of Hebron and Salisbury and Fruitland and Sharptown, there's a lot of open A1 agricultural land there that this could happen to. So thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you, Ms. Olszewski. Any other public comments? Seeing none. Council comments.
Anyone down there first?
Josh?
Oh, sure. I'll just jump in and say, first of all, this is the 30th anniversary of one of my favorite movies, Field of Dreams, which is, of course, has a big line in it. Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. I prefer to think Eastern Shore is more heaven, but unfortunately, it's going to be sad to see my councilmate here to the right gone. So we really wish you the best, and I think you're going to have a great time in doing so. But we'll miss you. Last other things I'll say is, as far as the budget, as far as the budget goes, we still have some of an issue. Maybe not something that we can immediately address, but the Meals on Wheels, the MAC issue, with the cost the seniors 1,500 fewer meals. It'd be nice maybe if this is, of course, these are state cuts to a local to MAC, and as much as possible, if we can be helpful in any kind of way of putting a letter to the Hogan administration or to whoever to reinstate dollars or find other ways to help. There's far too many seniors that are that Meals on Wheels is it's their only social contact, or they're really not doing well as far as hunger and other issues. So, as much as possible, if there's something that we as a body can do to make sure that the state understands how important lower shore seniors are and how critical this program is, that would be really great. So, thank you.
Any other council comments?
Yes. A lot of you guys know that this past Saturday was graduation for many seniors in Wicomico County. And I had the opportunity to be on stage with Parkside High School, and I think this is my sixth or seventh year. But this year was special because the board always had a policy that if a former board member had a student graduating, that they could go on stage and they could hand their diploma to them. So it was special. I had two kids, twins. But not only that, I watched those kids grow, and I got to hand a diploma to every single graduating senior at Parkside, and that was special. I'm kind of emotional. Thank you.
Any other comments? Mark?
Well, as I mentioned before, this is my last council meeting, so thanks for making it an eventful one. It was, it didn't take it easy tonight, so keeping it's been an eventful 5 years, and I've enjoyed myself for the most part. Laura Brewster was talking about hypertension and high blood pressure. I think my blood pressure will go down substantially once I'm off the council, so I'm doing my part for my own health. Generally I thanked everybody, from District 2 before. Glad to see some special people here. I don't think he came for me. I think he came for the storage tank. But it's good to see Joe Collins. He kind of helped talk me into running. So I don't know whether to thank him or blame him for that. But Dave Kenny's here. Dave has been a pretty good counselor to me during my years. I'll stop by the hardware store to get something and talk with Dave, and everybody talks to Dave, and so he can tell you what's going on in that community. And Dave doesn't have an elected position, but he sure represents the people of the Mardello Springs area real well. So, I'm glad you made it here, Dave, and I appreciate everyone else coming from Mardello Springs. And I think I won't be here to help you deal with your issue, but I do think there's a recognition that there is a problem in the zoning code. For my fellow council members, it's been a joy serving with all of you, as I mentioned. Josh, it hasn't been very long, but I've appreciated sitting next to you and getting to know you. I think you got a long and bright future, not just because you're the youngest council member, but you know, you're a very bright fella. Bill, you're all the way over at that end, so I don't talk to you that much, but we have a lot of elk and moose in Idaho where I'm going to, so I have a feeling I may see you if you can get your license situation figured out, and I'll always be happy to see you and host you there. So. Ernie, yeah, I've learned a lot from you. We didn't know each other before, but we've definitely got to know each other and been to a lot of events together. And for the folks in Ernie's district, he's a very effective representative of your interests. Ernie's very quiet, but he gets a lot done. He knows how to work very well with people. So you may not see what Ernie's doing, but he's representing you very well. So just know that. Larry, we knew each other, so we're, but I'm going to miss talking with you a lot. It's not going to be the same. So, and then Joe and John, I miss you guys a lot. There's a lot of talking with you guys. So, I think I'll leave it at that. So,
Any other comments?
Well, I like to thank Mark. I mean, we got elected the same year, same time, and at that time I was the only Democrat, and I was always told, they were telling me, watch out for Mark. He's going to be the worst one. He's going to be the worst Republican. He said, devils you can probably get along with. But over the years, I've talked to Mark numerous times, and we've had great conversations. I get along with all the guys, but me and Mark has got along real well. I mean, I've learned a lot from him. I enjoyed the conversation. Gonna miss you. Good luck.
Yeah, and just a quick comment. I also want to thank you, Mark. As I said earlier, when we were talking about school board people willing to serve. Public service is, is very admirable, and anyone that's willing to do that deserves credit. And want to thank you for your service and wish you the best in your move to Idaho. And we'll find that moose. Tie it to a tree for me.
Any other comments?
I just want to finish up. Mark and I go back for at least 10 years, and ever since then, we were on the Republican clubs together. He was president, and I was president. Then we all decided to run for county council in 2014, and we've been friends ever since. And I think his wife's going to be glad that we're not burning the phone up every single day. Like you said about Ernie, you may not see what these council members do when they're not in this forum, but they are working for the citizens. And as you can see, these council members like what they do. They're passionate at what they do, and it gets very emotional. So thank you for everybody's support. And Mark, you're going to be missed.
Under presidential comments, I would say the same. Mark, you and I have had many conversations. I'm sure probably the one thing you hear more than anything else in the House is Melissa saying, "Mark, it's John Cannon again," because we do talk quite often, and I value that a lot because there's so many decisions that have to be made, and in this business you have to be very tactful about how you handle everything. Up front, straightforward, and that's how I try to be. But sometimes it's nice to know when you need to temper yourself. Sometimes as very critical issues develop. And you've always been a really good balance for me in helping me decide on how I want to best approach any type of decisions, and I appreciate that. And you also kept it very fun, which was great. I mean, whether it's in meetings or whether we're in parades, we always have a great time together. And I know your district is going to be very, very upset. We're going to find a great replacement, no doubt about it. I'm sure of that, but I know that they'll miss you as a very well-respected representative. You did a great job. So thank you again. We'll come back. I'll come back to you.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. As far as the tank is concerned, we'll, again, as was stated earlier, I think we've done a lot in a short amount of time to at least try to begin the process of identifying what the circumstances are and what the options might be. Obviously, we have a long way to go here. I see it's 3 issues possibly, one about storage itself, one about the application process, and maybe the third one about the offloading process when you're talking about the odors and things like that. Of course, we recognize too, as was stated tonight, about the safety concerns and the environmental concerns. But
And we need to add to the overall zoning code is, we need to start addressing.
to address these particular issues,
Right.
yeah, as to whether it's an offloading issue, whether it's an application issue, whether it's just a storage issue, there's a kind of some three parts of it. I think the traffic was very informative as far as how that may be a hazard or may not, but it is very much an important element to the larger picture. And as Councilman McCain says, I know he has said this before, that he wants to get into some type of more definitive zoning in the ag district. As he said, we have one ag district, we should have different definitions within there. Keeping in mind that we do have to try to follow through with our concerns as well over the Right to Farm Act. We have to also take into consideration what I've stated before is a concern on property right values, which is a big issue for the farming community. Make sure we're not really stepping on too many toes or compromising too many values of people and their land values. So, but a lot of valid points. We'll have to continue to seeing where we are with this. Joe, I'll let you break in here.
I don't want to have to repeat everything everybody said, but Mark, it has been a pleasure serving with you. We've talked on the phone quite a bit, and got a great family, and I know you'll do fine in Idaho, and you'll be back taking care of your grandparents and your parents, and I know that's where you feel you need to be, and I honor you for taking that. So, I do have a question concerning the Mardella issue. Has the Right to Farm Committee been reconvened to hear this? There is a committee, correct, Wayne? Yeah.
No, I don't believe so, Joe, and I think that's a next step.
I think
for
that's
us.
the first step
Yeah.
that needs to be taken.
That's absolutely a next step. I think there are two tracks to follow here. First of all, we have this immediate issue, and I think we have to address this immediate issue. I mean, I drove that area. I looked at those roads. I looked at where that tank was going to be located. I looked at the residential development there. And from just my own personal standpoint, I had concerns about it, not living there, but I can certainly understand why there's angst amongst the people who do live there. So addressing the immediate issue, I think that's a first step. Addressing the longer-term issue, I think as an immediate first step, we should really consider any development of that type, any sort of an industrial use. You mentioned, Bill, large-scale solar. I think we should take anything like that as a first step through a special exception process so that there's plenty of notice to those who are living in that area so that they have an opportunity to weigh in, to discuss their concerns, and we, as a body, executive and the legislative branch, can consider what issues ought to be addressed as we consider approving a development of that type. So I've met now 3 times with Lori Carter and with Keith, and I think you saw the summary that they presented. That was just us trying to get our bearings, but I think the next step is that agricultural, I forget what it's called.
Right to Farm Committee.
But I think we really need to sit and discuss that to see if, I would love to see some resolution so that these folks aren't harmed immediately. Then I'd like to see some sort of a resolution where we go through a different process in terms of approving this sort of use. So it's a very high priority in our office.
It's been 20 years ago now, probably 20, maybe 25. I don't know. There was an issue on our side of the county, and the Right to Farm Committee convened, and they acted. They can't enforce any laws.
Correct.
But they acted as a mediator.
They try to mediate.
And
Correct.
they got this problem worked out, satisfactory to both parties. And I think that's probably the next step that needs to be taken before anything else, and probably sooner than later.
I agree with you.
Anyway, just a thought. The other thing I wanted to say is,
Thank you, Wayne.
government works in very slowly sometimes, and last fall, I testified in front of the State Highway Administration about doing something about Mount Herman Road and the intersection at Walston Switch Road. And today, they finally lowered the speed limit to 40 mile an hour. It took a while, and I want to thank the State Highway Administration for all their studies and their work of trying to get it done. It did take a while, and I understand it does. I'm not criticizing them. But I always get questions whenever I'm out and about when it was going to happen. So it did happen, and they are looking at doing more studies on the intersection itself, whether to put a stoplight or four-way stop or whatever they might want to do in the future. But I will say this, I looked up and seen that 40 mile an hour speed sign and looked at my speedometer, and I was running about 52. So I've got to be careful in the future. And so should everybody else. They did change the speed limit from Berry Road on into Salisbury to the overpass where it was 40 mile an hour before. Hopefully that'll help at that intersection. It's not going to probably decrease accidents, but maybe the reaction time will be better, and maybe the accidents won't be as severe. So I do want to thank the state and the rest of the county and county executive's office for standing behind that, and we finally got it done. So thank you.
All right, Joe, thank you. If I could entertain a motion to adjourn so we can go into open work. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to read it. Oh, this is an easy one. Entertain a motion to adjourn from legislative session to go into open work session.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. First item on the open work session. Yes.
5 minutes.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute recess if you don't mind. Thank you.